Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up live show / podcast presented, of course, by our friends at Yeti. Final, I believe, one of the year, if you will. Solly here. DJ Pie is here. Hello, Mr. Pie Man.
Hello, Solly. Thank you for having me. It's been a great week, and I'm excited to wrap it up.
Randy, gosh, he was calling for the ball this week. He's like, I cannot not be on the live shows for the President's Cup. It's my favorite event in golf. Thank you so much for being here all week with us, Big Randy.
Well, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's been a true pleasure in every sense of the word. Happy to be here once again this evening.
Earlier this year, Travis Matthew announced a first-of-its-kind partnership with St. Andrews, the home of golf, and to kick off this relationship, Travis Matthew, they opened a permanent retail store August 16th, just steps behind the 18th green at the Old Course, and it'll be the first time a brand-specific store has been located at St. Andrews. And to celebrate the iconic moment for the brand, Travis Matthew released co-branded product featuring the St. Andrews Lynx logo. Many of their best-selling items, including polos, tees, hats, and gloves, are available for you today. Experience the lightweight comfort and versatility of Travis Matthew combined with the history of St. Andrews. Two things I love right there in one product. And this unique product is available for a limited time only. Be sure not to miss out. And for those that are planning a visit to the home of golf in your future, remember to check out the store as you walk off the 18th greens. Visit travismatthew.com to get your limited edition St. Andrews Lynx by Travis Matthew apparel. Use code NLU to get 20% off your purchase. That's Travis Matthew. Remember, Matthew is spelled MATHEW.com. Remember, use code NLU at checkout. Hey, guys, we had a little sweat today. A little sweat. It was glad we didn't make the mustache bet. I'm glad I didn't end up having tons and tons of money on the U.S. to win this, like I was telling people to do, because it was more real than I think they were even acknowledging on the telecast today. Did anybody else feel the sweat?
Of course. It was things could have gone much differently there. You know, if the Canadians show up, if Tom Kim can keep that lead through the end, it was very dicey there for about 15 minutes or so.
I'm trying to remember. First of all, I have an extremely loud car alarm going outside my house. Hopefully, you guys can't hear that, but I'll try to keep that in my head simultaneously as I'm talking. I can't think of a team event outside of maybe the Liberty National one, which of course I was kind of a conscientious objector to in the first place, that didn't have that 15 to 20 to 30 minute stretch of just like, wait a minute, if this, and this happens, I don't know, all of a sudden we could be there. And today was a very potent one. You know, I think we were all looking around for quite a while there, like, hey, this thing could actually happen. And then you just kind of realize that, you know, it's a good metaphor for life, Randy. Not everything's temporary. That board up there is only going to stay that way for so long, and things start switching, and guys missing putts, and it's just it's a little. It wasn't quite as close as it felt like for quite a while there, I think.
I disagree. I think it was close. It really was. The Finau, if Hideki's ball goes in on 18, so he gets to 18 first off. Steps up, pipes one over the corner, and hits a fucking Marshall in the leg on the fly, kicking it further into the rough. If that doesn't happen, who knows if that ball makes it back out to the fairway or if he has a clearer shot. And then he essentially chipped it in. It had a lot of speed on it, yes, but if that goes in and they win that match, and Finau's match was very much in question, and Xander's in the water on 15 at the time, and if those flip, it was very extremely real at that point. And how do you not have get some buttholes puckering up at that point, right? But when you start seeing, like, doing the math and seeing only 2 or 3 American flags up on the board, knowing exactly what you need to get, I don't know. That was right there for about 90 seconds. It was absolutely there until Xander hit that shot into the green on 15.
And that's where we kind of been talking about this all week, where, when it gets, none of these matches are like 90-10, right? Like, they're all like, it's 18-hole matches. They're all professional golfers. These aren't dried up old ladies. They're good to go out there. But when it does get close, you kind of see the difference between somebody like Xander being like, oh, what's that? Like, this is a humongous moment. Cool. I'm going to step up and make this. Or Sam Burns' shot coming into 18 or whatever. You see those guys step up, and you see, no offense, I'm sure he's going to have a tough night tonight, but you see someone like Corey Connors where they're like, yeah, he looked like he was hyperventilating on the way to mark this putt. And it just, like I said, none of that stuff's going to hold for for 2.5 hours exactly like it needed to, and so yes, there were moments when it's like, man, if you pause everything right now, and if just a couple of things go, but I think it's very different than that, that Miracle at Medina team. It's still a different team.
I was just exactly going to say to that, though, like we've lived through one of these in our lifetime. Like I want to see the win probability play out. Like it.
And no offense to anyone, but like that team also had like Justin Rose and Henrik Stenson and Rory McIlroy and like all some significant horses on it as well.
True. Are you feeling inspired by that? Them putting the nail in the coffin like they did on the American team, Randy? I'm sure you are.
No, you're trying to set me up there. I think in the spirit of what we're saying, the international team showed fight today, and we'll get into it. But based on Captain Immelman's post-game press conference, that certainly was where his mind was. Very impressed with a lot of guys. I thought this was a coming out party of sorts for just South Korean men in general. I personally, I always knew Sung Jae-im was really good, but didn't really have much to draw on beyond that. Guy like Siwoo Kim, he won the Players at one time, but not a whole lot besides that. KH Lee, funny quote, not much besides that. Tom Kim, who's he? And now it's like, man, these guys are great, and they had a chance to show their personality. They played really well, by and large, collectively, and so I think the Americans did what they were expected to do, what they should have done, what they needed to do, and credit to them. But I think this today and overall this week was maybe more about the international side, at least for me. And I'm curious if you guys feel that way as well.
I definitely do. At the risk of making a semi-serious point on this podcast, I was thinking about the South Korean men a ton all week, and how I know they have kind of a, I don't know, you don't even hear that much reporting on them, right? Because there's not that much English reporting done on those guys, I feel like, and I know they're a much bigger deal, obviously, in their home country than they are over here, but you don't hear that much. I know they kind of have their own collectives, and they have a little bit of a stronghold in like Dallas. I think a lot of the guys live there and probably play together, and they tend to go out to eat a lot together on the road, but they don't ever show up to an event where people are like, holy shit, that's the dude, right? Like they always probably have to feel kind of anonymous, and kind of that's got to be like a very lonely feeling. And it was really freaking cool to see Tom Kim and KH Lee and Sung Jae and some of these guys like have, and Siwoo, of course, like have actual like swagger, right? And have the fans kind of like back them up on it. And I don't know, I hope that leads to them feeling a little bit more swagger on the week to week PJ Tour, because I don't want to pretend like this had Ryder Cup ratings, or like this was half the world was watching, or something like that, but I do think like they made a ton of fans this week, and hopefully some of that carries on to more week to week PJ Tour, because they seem like that's very deserving.
Well, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to do grades. We're going to go through player by player, do some grades. We're going to take some questions later on, but I thought we might let's go through today's actions, if you guys will indulge me for a little while today, because again, I think today kind of delivered. There was some fun stuff. Not only did it get pretty close there, but there were some really good matches, starting with the one very off the top, Siwoo Kim taking down 4-0 Justin Thomas. I was thinking that JT going out first today, especially the way Tom Kim ended the day yesterday, I thought he was going to come out and just have the antics dialed up to 1,000,000. And it kind of going back to what we either talked about last night or the night before, I forget. It felt like he was hesitant to get too demonstrative or to rile the crowd up a little bit, because it was just kind of like, yeah, I'm supposed to win this match. We're supposed to win this cup by a lot. Like, I can't really be that dude. And he decided to start the antics by getting very visibly and noticeably upset by not being conceded a 2-foot 7-inch putt on the 9th green by Siwoo Kim. And I don't know if he needed a little catalyst to get going or something from that point on, but Siwoo Kim flipped it on from that moment on and shot 4 under on the back 9. And JT was 2 up leaving the 9th green, and Siwoo won it on the 18th green. What were you guys' thoughts on JT being upset about not being conceded a 2-foot 7-inch putt?
It's funny. I think Claire Rogers had probably the best tweet to just encapsulate, was it Friday, maybe Thursday or Friday? Thursday. JT being like, "Oh no way, we're conceding this putt," and then flash forward to Sunday, and he's upset with not being given a putt. I will say, I think JT. I really appreciate the role that JT plays. We've made the joke he should have been a Duke point guard. But today was a great example of him drawing the best out of his opponent, and I think that happened in 2019 against Cam Smith. That was an excellent match. This was an excellent match, one of my favorites all day to watch. And I think, and I'm just trying to put myself in somebody's shoes playing against a guy like JT. I mean, that's a guy you really want to beat because he's got no shortage of confidence, can be even cocky seeming at times. And so I think that makes for really good matches that he's been involved in. He came up just short today, but I thought he still played pretty well. Siwoo was just better. So I don't want to knock any of JT's antics because I think they help lead into what turn out to be awesome matches. So I'm very appreciative of that.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a cliche, but I think JT is the ultimate. You're pumped if he's on your team, and you fucking hate him if he's on the other team, right? And I really enjoy him, kind of seemingly leaning into that role. I think it's great. As an American, do I always find myself rooting for him?
Right.
Hard to say. I think it comes off a little. It's weird. Like, I don't even think he necessarily is like this spoiled, entitled guy, but that's just kind of the way it reads sometimes, right? I think we've all just met a lot of people like that, and sometimes that's how it comes across. But that's what, like you said, Randy, that's what makes the match so fun to watch. And I think that's what makes, I was a little hesitant or a little kind of head scratchy about Siwoo in that first pairing, but that it illustrates very much like how much I don't know about Siwoo Kim. Right? Like the guy that we saw out there was like, holy shit, did not know that's who that guy was. That's great to know. Let me write that down in my notebook.
Mm-hmm.
I will say about the JT stuff is he's got to at least be okay and understanding of that this pisses a lot of people off, right? He can't be ignorant to that fact that he's playing the villainous role in a way, and he cannot have it both ways. It is a polarizing thing, obviously, that he does on the golf course, and it is very much like he's 16-5-3 as the best start to a career for any American in President's Cup and Ryder Cups. And he's still, a lot of the American fans are like not cool with it. They're not down with us. I mean, for relatively speaking, it was a head shake and kind of just like a little face that he made about having to putt that out, which was not that much of a, it was not a gimme. 2 feet 7 inches was being putt all week long, right? And especially when he made Corey Connors putt that one on Thursday, which, listen, Corey Connors may have had very good reason to do that, but it's funny how that can work in like very much one-on-one play where it now becomes you are so like possessed at beating this guy right in front of you that I don't want to say it can distract you, but it can just, it turns into this thing where like JT knows he should beat Siwoo Kim, right? On paper, he should beat him. Yet every little time that Siwoo makes an 8-foot putt, JT's walking off the 15th green, 14th green, whatever that was, shaking his head like I can't believe this fucker's beating me. Like, how is this happening? How is this getting away from me? And I'm okay with it as long as he's aware that it's pissing people off and gonna piss people off, right? It doesn't really piss me off. Like, I enjoy the people. Like, if Billy Ho was doing it, I think we would be fired up about it. It'd be almost cheering it on. Like, yeah, be the antagonist. Come on, bring it on. But if he's going to pretend like he doesn't understand why people are upset about it, that's we need a little talking to about that part.
I also think, and Solly, maybe you have a better perspective on this, but like, I don't think he's doing it as like an act either, though. I think that's like, I think he enjoys it. Like, I think that's very much who he is. And I think we keep saying this, but I think that's what makes all those Duke point guards, the Duke point guards, right? Like, they're not out there like running a playbook of like what's going to get under people's skin. that's what pops into their head, man. They're being very they're being pretty honest about how they're feeling out there, and if that's what it takes to get him going, and if he's out there inventing, turning Siwoo Kim's gimmies into a bit of an enemy or something, like, good for him, man. That's great. I love it.
Yeah. I want to be 100% clear. I love it. As a guy who wants more drama and conflict in these types of events, it's fantastic to have somebody like JT doing what he's doing.
I really like that question that Cody put up there on the screen. For those that didn't see it on the podcast, it was basically like, JT's got plenty of antics, but he's still the guy that I would put out if you had to beat anybody in the world. I'm curious if you guys would agree or disagree with that. On the American side, if you have to win a Space Jam style match against an unnamed opponent, who are you putting out? It's kind of hard to argue with JT.
I've only ever had to think about what order you put guys out in our super real, not hypothetical at all situations on this podcast. But gosh, if you had to put, who would be the man in the envelope if you are in the opposite way? If you saw the awesome President's Cup playoff style, who would that be on this team? I mean, right now it's probably Spieth, but going into today, I would have been fine putting having that be JT.
Yeah,
it might be Burns right now though.
I still think Spieth. I mean, I know Spieth lost the match, or JT lost the match, but God, his iron shots coming down the stretch, I would put him up against anybody. That's my clear-cut answer.
He gave 2 bogeys back on the back 9 on top of Siwoo making 4 birdies. So it was not whatever Siwoo did, it got enough under his skin that it was not a zero-sum game after that. It had some kind of effect on him. And yeah, once the shushing started and things like that, it just becomes this, you just become possessed. Like I have to beat this dude. And it just gets under your skin more and more and more and more. And
Siwoo Kim backed his ass down.
He did. And JT gave him credit on Twitter. Yeah. He said, he beat my ass, but that was an entertaining opening match. And yeah, I don't know why Siwoo went out first, but another one well played by Trevor Immelman. So match number 2, Jordan Spieth bounces back 2 down through 2 against Cam Davis, and it was looking pretty bleak. He was not finding the club face early on, and comes out and beats Cam Davis 4-3, who was a major hot hand for us, the internationals coming into today.
Yeah, he seemed like he ran out of gas a little bit today, and Spieth was pouring them in from everywhere. It seemed like a classic match play. What else do I got to do to beat this guy? Like, why won't this guy die? Kind of a scenario. And it's Spieth is it kind of seemed like all week. I wish, shout out to the TV coverage. I wish he had a better feel for how some of these guys actually played rather than how the TV coverage kind of presents how they play. Because it seemed like Spieth was like the classic, when I'm hitting it all over the planet, I'm making everything. And when I'm flagging it, I'm flagging it kind of a performance. And those two things kind of seem like they lined up all week. And they definitely seem like they lined up today. Like, he was pretty ragged, it looked like, to start the match and putting himself in that early hole, and then kind of poured in a bunch of putts late, and then all of a sudden was like, okay, I'm back. Now I'm going to start being Jordan Spieth again.
It's also worth noting Cam Davis, no birdies today. It was not his.
And that's tough. That's not going to get it done.
It's hard to win in match play in that regard.
Unless you're getting a lot of pops, which I think they were playing straight up today, though.
Sam Burns and Hideki tied a really, really good match. We talked about how Hideki's bad break on 18, but again, Sam Burns pouring in the birdies, birdied 5, birdied 10, birdied 11, birdied 12, birdied 16. Just a stellar. Tyler Munson 7 gave us the comment, should we start the Sam Burns Trophy? On paper, you had a bad week, but it was actually pretty good, because that was, it's, everyone's saying that at this point, but I could not say enough great things about how Sam Burns played this week and did not have the record. We'll reflect on that, but did not have the record that you would have thought he would have had.
Come on, Randy, drag his ass.
Okay,
3 losses.
A couple of things, right? Or maybe more than a couple. One, yeah, he didn't play well enough at the end of the day. 2, I think we could name that after Tony Finau's PGA Tour career.
The Memorial Tony Finau Trophy presented by Data Golf.
And then third, you say bad break from Hideki on 18 with the Marshall. I wonder if there wasn't intent there from the Marshall.
Wow. Think he was leaning into the pitch a little bit?
It couldn't have caught a better part of your leg, right? It was a little kneecap right out to the right. Terrible angle for Hideki, deep in the Bermuda. I think if that ball, goes unobstructed, it takes one hop, lands in the fairway. I don't know. I'm just asking questions, but I think we need to take a look at perhaps, who's paying this marshal, what his intentions were, things of that nature.
And we haven't talked about the coefficient of restitution of that flag stick that kept his chip out either.
That's right. That's right as well.
It would be so sick in this year of the PGA Tour bungling about a million things along the way if they were just so distracted because they were paying off marshals to make sure the U.S. won the President's Cup. Like that was where their focus was for the majority of the year. So look in that clutch moment, we need someone to be in the way on the 18th hole to deflect a ball. That would be the best possible way for this year to end.
That brings up another question about the U.S. team. If you have to get one of them out there to catch a ball at the end of the tournament, who's it going to be? That might be the Billy Ho.
Kisner, he's got that dog in him.
Kisner, we need you to go out there and take a charge for the team.
Patrick Cantlay made easy work of Adam Scott today. I don't have a ton to say about that match. We'll talk again about both players here when we do our grades. But
Cantlay was really freaking good this week.
Yes,
and like very, very overshadowed by JT and Spieth and Tom Kim and some of the more electrifying performances. But damn, man, he was really good.
Sebastian Munoz, a really underrated performance from the international team, 2-0-1 on the week, and he went out and beat world number 1 today. Does Sebastian Munoz pass the eye test to you, Randy?
Certainly did today, and you got to wonder why he was not playing more sessions. We talked about that early in the week. He's a high variance guy, and as soon as you get that sniff that he might be locked in, you got to play him as much as possible.
He was awesome. He was great I loved his interview today. It was maybe my favorite post-round interview. He was talking about like how proud of himself he was that he just took down the number 1 player in the world. I think that was really cool. I think he called it one of his biggest achievements of his life.
For sure. Great. He birdied 7, birdied 8, birdied 10, holes a bunker shot for eagle on 11. Scheffler matches it.
That was nuts
off the green. Then he birdies 12, birdies 15, birdies 17 to win the match 2-up. Like that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 birdies and an eagle from the 7th hole on to go out and beat Scotty Scheffler, who played pretty well today, if I may say. It was, I think he was kind of holding Burns back in the early part of the week, but Scheffler, I feel like, played well enough today to win his match and did not get the draw he needed.
So I got a question for you. Will you institute the rain glove?
Is it a rain glove or is it just a black glove?
I think it's a rain glove.
Okay.
It's got like the piping on it that looks like a whatever FootJoy or whatever rain glove.
I'm never too hesitant to go to the rain glove.
I think it could be interesting.
I just like to say we'll talk more about Scotty when we get to the grading portion of this show.
Okay. Finau got the job done against Taylor Pendrith. Taylor, we're going to talk about that. But that was the one that was like, hey man, this match might end up being kind of important here.
That was where the air came out of the balloon.
Yeah.
When Finau, what was that on 16?
When he big birdie putt on 16.
He was in that bunker. It looked like it was just a bad TV angle, I guess, but it looked like that ball was like stopped on a straight downslope past the hole there. And Big Tone, of course, our guy Randy, no doubt about it, pours it right in the middle.
Never doubt.
Closes the match.
Never doubt. Loved seeing Big Tone today. He went and got it. I thought Taylor was pretty frisky. I think he made 3 or 4 birdies on the front 9. I thought he, if we're gonna give out like moral victories, I thought his was more of a moral victory than just straight up getting his ass kicked.
There's more to the story on that 0-4.
Right. I also, DJ, I'll say this is, when you and I assumed the captaincy on yesterday's show, these were the 2 spots I would have had a guy like Tom Kim. These seemed like pivotal matches, and to put Pendrith and Connors, who were 0 for going into singles, up against Finau and Xander in these spots was very questionable. I do think, and I that's not second guessing because I think we were first guessing that.
I'm with you on that one. Xander, rough start in his match against poor Corey Connors. I will say, little Corey, he did make 4 birdies coming in after the 8th hole.
I
But
think he still shot like 75.
it was not good. It was really not good. Xander was not good. Xander made 5 bogeys today, but one up on 18. Really good up and down from the crosswalk on the 18th hole to win that one up. But yeah, he was not himself today. It was that match was a little bit of a pillow fight.
Unbelievable par by Xander on 16. Was that when he drove it in the
15.
water?
Holy
15.
shit.
Yeah,
I got a question for you. Why do you get relief from a crosswalk?
I mean, it's in the middle of the fairway, and it's like ground under repair, basically.
If you're going to take advantage of getting trampled down lies in the rough, I think you got to take
call both ways.
Exactly.
Call both ways, Blue.
Exactly.
Well,
I don't agree. I don't
it's-
agree with you, but I'd love to read your.
Or
I'd love to read your proposal.
Or no, check it out. Like, don't lay up in the crosswalk if you don't want to hit from the crosswalk.
Treat it like a bunker.
Exactly.
Control your runouts.
Just
I'm
Play the
in.
ball as it
Sold.
lies.
I'd
Yeah.
vote for you, Rady.
Thank you.
If we weren't under the thumb of this, oligarchical USGA that has just assumed power without any representation, we could maybe change those sorts of things. But we have no power in this game, Randy.
Well, it's just the players get every conceivable favor from the rule book. These guys are supposedly the best in the world. Let's test them a little bit.
I think we should put this to the top of the priority list for this offseason is getting this legislation pushed through.
Well, if they roll back the ball, we won't have to worry about it.
Exactly. It's merely an aside, but I thought it was quite curious.
Cameron Young versus Sungjae. Sungjae beats him 1 up.
Great week for Sungjae too.
It was. He played he was flag hunting all week long. Cameron Young's putting, it was not good again today. Some horrific misses from quite close in. Billy Ho versus KH Lee. Didn't really get to see a lot of this one, but KH Lee beats him easily 3-1. Tough week for Billy Ho.
I will say, I think that match was for sexiest man of the President's Cup. I think
KH left no doubt.
I think KH gets it. He earned it fair and square.
There was a great again for the sickos only. If you weren't watching the hot mic situation as the players were shaking hands on Golf Channel, I did have to laugh pretty hard when Kisner was. They're all going through kind of a good game, slapping hands. And Kisner goes, "Oh, KH, you're the most handsome man in America, man. That was great." And then Siwoo comes through. He's like, "Man, you're one of the ugliest fuckers in America." It was really funny. It made me laugh.
The joke received very well as well for anyone that was getting.
Oh
mad.
yeah.
For anyone who's getting mad about that online, it was.
No, he was 100% serious.
Well executed.
It really had an axe to grind. Continue. Sorry.
Tom Kim versus Maximus Homa. Tough front 9 for our boy Max, but they do not take pictures on the scorecard. He birdies 12, 14, 15, and 16 to flip a match. He was 3 down on 11, and he was 1 up walking off 15 and wins it. Tom Kim missed a relatively short birdie on 18 that I was positive he was going to make, but Max wins it to go 4-0 on the week. We might hear from him later. We'll see if I don't know what the alcohol situation is, but he has the link to the show. He may call in later.
I'll be blacked out.
God, that'd be awesome.
I think we'll get into the grades. I think sometimes I think maybe we're a little happy there weren't pictures of all Max's scorecards, and this was an ultimate like results only 4-0. Just win, just get it done. But there were some rocks that he was navigating in some of these matches.
I think he shot 42 on the front today, but followed it with a 32 on the back 9. So
that's what you got to do.
All that mattered, and he lost 1 hole by 3 and lost another one by 2, but that does not matter in match play. So
must have caught a lot of crosswalks on that front 9.
Right? Well, no, they get relief from that, DJ. That's
right. Sorry,
yeah.
sorry.
I will say Max ballsy put on 17 too for par. It would have the match and guarantee him a half point going into 18. But it was fun seeing him consistently, deliver in big spots. That was quite a lot of fun.
I know it's impossible to be impartial about the big homie, but where do you stand on? Did you see enough this week? Is he a Ryder Cup lock if he's in the conversation?
Oh, I mean, yeah. Sully, what's your opinion? Because you're a course fit and all that stuff, but I punched the ticket. Max has made my Ryder Cup team.
I mean, he's got to play well between now and then and the end of the year. It's not a.
I mean, if he's in those top kind of like 18
sure.
to 20 conversation.
For sure. Yeah. It can, things can change very quickly, of course. Like Daniel Berger, Harris English were not obvious. I mean, Berger's hurt and English has been hurt. Like there's a lot of things that can change in a situation from year to year. There's always more turnover from one team to the next team than you think there will be walking off, at the end of the week. Health wise, if he stays healthy and is hitting the ball even remotely like he is now, like absolutely 100%. I don't think the U.S. is going to have a problem of too much talent. That has almost been their problem. If you can call it a problem last year, like Sam Burns not being on that team, Max Homa, Zalatoris, all those dudes did not make that team last year. Now you can kind of see with the 11th and 12th spots now, there's opportunities out there to make this U.S. team. It is not set in stone and locked. And I mean that in a good way for Max. I think he's got, all the opportunity and all the team room fits and everything working in his benefit to be on the Ryder Cup team next year.
And as so much perspective.
I was going to say, as Andrew was pointing out in the comments there, injection of perspective coming shortly as well.
What a freaking fun year for, if we can, again, not being impartial, for Max the human, of just realizing your talent this year. He's won in previous years, but this was the year that he raised his floor a ton. He won 2 times this year. He makes the President's Cup team. He goes 4-0 in the President's Cup. He's about to have a baby. Like every time it seems like life can't really get any better for him. It just goes up another level. And I couldn't be happier for our buddy there, because it's been awesome to watch as a friend.
And don't sleep on. I know we've well documented his somewhat struggles or slowness to kind of gain his footing in the majors. Course record holder at LACC. You heard it here first.
No, I thought Big Stu took that down.
Oh, you know what? You might be right. Well, I got old research in front of me here. Max absolutely fucked up LACC when he was in college. So just don't sleep on that one either.
And Los Dodgers continue to be a menace out west.
It's true. And the White Sox are in town that week, so he might be suffering a bad mental state early in the week. But we'll see.
I'll ask you guys this quickly: best round of the day, any player, either team today. Answer as quickly as you can. Too long. The answer is Colin Morikawa.
Yes, I was gonna get there. He got 7 under today.
He ran all over Mito Pereira, who did not play a bad round of golf by any measurement, and took him down 3-2. They didn't show his eagle on 7, which I feel like eagling 7 in singles was, and I wonder if Morikawa took a little bit of slight to being put out 11th. It was kind of a forgotten man. Sat 2 sessions this week.
Yeah, weird.
And but went out and took care of business against Mito. And then last match, Christian Bezadenhout allegedly beat Kevin Kisner 2-1. So
justice for all the Bez heads out there.
Yes,
unbeaten as we predicted. Best putter in the world.
Thank you.
Can only play the people that are in front of you, and he refused to lose to any of them. So I'll rest my hat there, Big. I think we were on that one early in the week.
We were.
Then we got little Corey out there flailing around trying to get points.
And kudos to Bez for denying little baby Neil the 18-12 result that he so desperately wanted.
The War of 1812.
Yeah.
Listen, I know this may not fit for all you watching this live right now, because there's NFL on TV right now, and you're spending time with us, which we greatly appreciate. But the NFL action is in full swing here at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Touchdowns, big plays, even bigger wins. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win, and you get $200 in free bets if they do. And if that's not enough, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. Right now, for every leg you add to, you can boost your winnings up to 100% with payouts bigger than ever. Why bet on football anywhere else? And to make it even sweeter, you can throw down on stepped up same game parlays once per game day all season long. So it's not just a one-time offer. So you can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code NLU to get $200 in free bets if your team wins when you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's code NLU, only DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. I'll ask this question. Is 17.5 to 12.5 a win for the U.S.? Like, is that a do we look back at this President's Cup and say this was a good team event for the U.S.?
Deej. I already said I think the bigger takeaways are on the international side.
We talked
but,
about that. I'm asking now. We're talking about the American side.
yeah, I mean, they won by 5 points. Although I would love to, they did what they had to do. To be human, there's no way that they were as hyped for this as they possibly could have been.
I think they were all extremely gassed coming into this long season, playoffs, like all that stuff. I agree with everything you said coming in, Solly, about it's a little weird to be stunting on, it feels a little varsity JV coming in. And then I think once it did get real, it clearly meant something to all those guys out there today. I'm reading way too much into it. I know. But that was such a weird comment that Davis Love made in the press conference today about how, yeah, we could have like maybe sent him out there a little bit better, but then all the guys wouldn't have got to play with their buddies. That was like, I cannot.
No, wait, let me just correct for the record. He said we could have thrown balls up and made teams out of that, but then our guys wouldn't have got to play with their buddies. It wasn't necessarily like we didn't make the good teams. We wanted to play with our friends. Not entirely, but
I think the sentiment is kind of the same in that, like, they were definitely prioritizing guys playing with buddies rather than going through the paces. At least it seemed like it, right? I don't know. I know that was kind of like hey, we're all having fun and we've had a couple drinks and we're all sitting up here and everybody kind of wanted to play with their buddies, but that was a very weird thing to say from a like Ryder Cup perspective.
The weird part to me was like we all played. It was basically that part was kind of like admitting like, hey, I made sure to get everyone in at least 2 sessions and spread it out when it was.
He doesn't want to get yelled at by the parents.
Very
exactly.
Very obvious.
Coach, my boy's a 4-star. He should be playing.
Which is very obvious that Kisner and Horschel should not have gotten the nod yesterday afternoon, right? And it's got to be hard to It sounds silly to kind of criticize a team that won by 5 and was 95% win probability from Friday afternoon on, but it's got to be hard to just step on their necks when you just don't have that animosity in this series really at all. There's not guys on that other team that you can really. There's not a Poulter on that other side that you want to see weep and cry. And in that regard, I get it, but it's hard to walk off losing the weekend for this U.S. team that was so heavily favored on your home turf against a team beleaguered by the live defections, and you're playing against the 15th and 16th best guys on their depth chart, and feel really great about it. I think. I mean, because it even 6.5, 5.5 today, it looked like it could have gone a lot worse than that than it actually did. So these home ones are not the question mark. The next one is the big one and the huge question mark, and something they haven't done since 1993, which is just astonishing to say. But looking ahead to that, it feels, I think best case scenario is they recognize how close this one kind of in a way, and how if internationals had their full slate of guys, they would have been in danger of losing on their home turf. And I don't think that this is the kind of team that's going to go over to Europe too cocky for it and not recognize the fact that they definitely can lose that. But I'm wondering if this was maybe a little bit of a wake-up call for them to say, like, hey, you're vulnerable. You're not invincible. Like, they won last year by so much. They won by 10. They set the record for the Ryder Cup. And if they'd have blown the doors off this international team, they could have felt a little bit, untouchable. But I do wonder going to the next one if this weekend humbled them a little bit. It's not going to humble me, but it might humble them.
And to be fair to DL3, there was no real elaboration on what he meant by that. So he could have just as easily meant like maybe the stats wouldn't have said to put Jordan and Justin together and they went 4-0. So maybe there was more to it. It was just given the quote that we had, you kind of assign your own context to it, I guess is where I was at. So there could have been more to it, but it was a little strange.
I think golf, we don't get to do a lot of the analyzing as you would in team sports. And I think there's a lot of fun in kind of analyzing the team sports. But so we can look at this current crop of American players, right? This internet, the U.S. team being led by JT and Spieth and Scheffler and Cantlay and Xander, this core of guys, this year was like, they just needed to take care of business at home, and really we won't know about this group until next year in Italy. right? I think that's the test for them. And so, they need to get an easy home win. They got the win. It wasn't as pretty as it could have been. But I think everything points to Italy next year for the Ryder Cup as being like, okay, let's see what they're actually all about.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this, and this is I feel like there's some sentiment of rooting for other teams other than the U.S. amongst the NLU brethren at times. I mean, mainly TC is not here, obviously, but he roots for Team Europe and for the internationals, and a lot of that reasoning being that the Americans were just an unlikable bunch. Do you find this bunch of Americans to be likable? I'll start with you, Deej.
Much more. I think they've improved a lot in that regard, strictly by, there's no Patrick Reed, there's no Bryson, there's no Brooks. Dustin I root for, but I think that's more of a later in his career kind of thing. I think earlier in his career, I didn't really feel all that much for him, kind of one way or the other. And then beyond that, it was a lot of like filler guys back in the day that you kind of didn't feel much for, right? It was a lot of like Webb Simpson. I feel like we've all kind of like come a little bit full circle on him into where he's kind of blossomed into a bit of a crafty kind of fun guy to root for later in his career. But when you're out there like getting drubbed in the Ryder Cup, it's like, get this guy off my fucking TV screen, and I think there were a couple fill-in guys like that, but just looking at it, it's like, I get why people don't like JT, but I put him on my TV screen every day. Like I have a blast watching him. Spieth might be my favorite golfer ever. That's pretty easy. Sam Burns is an electric factory. Like I can't get enough of that guy. Cantlay's kind of at the bottom of the ranking, but I'm not anti. I just don't really feel that much. And honestly, Scotty's kind of in that camp too, but maybe we unpack that later. Big Tone has come around as like truly suspending the bit. Like I smiled every time he was on the screen because he just looks like he's having so much fun. Yeah, he's like the most likable guy out there. And then you keep going down the list. Like there's just not that many. There's not as many. I guess it kind of is like pros and cons, right? Because there's not as many strong personalities. So I don't know that it's as interesting as it is with all those other guys. But I also think it's inherently more likable because it's less polarizing, if that makes sense.
And if I may say too, like getting rid of Ricky, who everyone likes, but there was a stink element to that in terms of like he was a part of losing teams, right? And Tiger and Phil were just a part of a shitload of losing teams, and like all that's gone now, and it is totally taken over by a new crop that get along. They smile. They look like they have a lot more fun. It looks a lot less procedural to them, and it looks like it's something that they're truly motivated by year round, and there is some actual unity and a chance to kind of build a bit of the D word, if you will, just with that group, because it could last, 5, 6, 7, 8 more years, if you will. To me, it seems like a more likable team. So that's why I was taking stock. Randy, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree with everything DJ said. Definitely just on a human level, more likable from my perspective. I think the reason I found myself gravitating towards Team Europe last Ryder Cup was in part though because I still think that like that collection of guys, it's weird, but at the end of the day, it's just like, okay, you're in each, like who would you want to go have beers with, right? And the answer for me has pretty consistently been the European side. The internet now, like this international, I think I just kind of rooted for them because they were such a heavy underdog, and it's more fun to just root for the underdog. They're not unlikable, but I don't get quite that same sense of like, oh no, dude, I would love to go have beers. I think I would learn a lot. I think it would be an interesting dinner having beers with those guys. But yeah, but I do think the Americans are a much more appealing group of just people.
Can I pause you just to
speaking of beers,
speaking of dudes we'd like to have a beer with, maybe
speaking of dickheads,
can we go ahead and bring in the homie, if you will, who I believe is Mr. Max Homa, 4-0 for the champion United States President's Cup team. Hey buddy, how are you?
Thank you. Did Randy just call me a dickhead?
Well, no, you missed the beginning.
You missed the context.
Yeah.
How are we feeling tonight?
more buzzed than I was this morning, but feel pretty good.
What are you doing? Why are you not at the party? Or is there not a party for President's Cups?
Oh, there will be a party. I need a shower, so I figured I would talk to my boys before that. Yeah, we're going to dinner, and then there's a party. But yeah, I this is a tradition after W's, and this does count as a W in my eyes. So we had to make it happen.
Max, when's the last time you've been just deathly hungover?
Oh God, deathly.
You know,
It has
like
been a minute.
puking, just wanting it all to end.
I'm not a big puke guy personally, but I can't remember. There has been a time somewhat recently, but the most hungover I've probably ever been was after the Riv win, and then I had to fly straight to Florida, and that was just an all-time just horrendous day. This I'm hoping tomorrow is even worse. That's how I'm looking at
Yes.
the night.
Yes, Godspeed. I hope so too.
Max, you looked you had intensity going the few times they did show you on TV today. What was the singles match like? How did it kind of compare to the other days?
Singles is different. I don't have, Tony Finau's drives to vibe off of. I don't have Billy Horschel's just immense intensity to vibe off of. So singles is different. I definitely caught myself being like a rookie today, not controlling adrenaline and just not understanding just like how my body's going to be. And honestly, like this Tom Kim kid is an amazing player, man. Like he kind of owned our team. He made all the big putts. He did everything you could ask for somebody to do. And I wanted to play him because of all those reasons. And it was really cool to play him and compete against somebody who obviously appreciates the President's Cup and wants to be, best player in the world and all, I'm sure all of his dreams. So I wanted to play against him, and it was an intense day. And I didn't think it would get to my match. Obviously, it did not end up getting to my match, but it got a little close there for a minute. And it was a cool spot to be in, to play like they're kind of their guy this week, and to rally on the back nine to at least ensure a point for the U.S.
Did you call for the ball for Tom Kim?
I might have called for the ball for Tom Kim. I did not think we were going to be the 10th match out, if I'm being honest, but I did call for the ball.
Was it a mouse in the house situation?
There were mouses, there were houses, there were so many things.
How does call for the ball go? So did you think he was going to go out first and you wanted to go out first, or why did you want to play him in particular?
So when I watched everybody play yesterday afternoon, there was one guy that was just obviously sticking out, and it was Tom. He's amazing. He makes every putt. His iron's amazing. He's just a stud. And when Davis asked who, I think he asked everybody. He said, "Is there anybody in particular you'd like to play?" I said, "I'd like to play Tom." I feel like we had similar energy at the point. Like we're both kind of riding high. Everything just seemed to be going our way for the week. So I was like, I would like to play him. Also, like back of my mind too is Tom's new caddy, Joe Scovrin, is one of my closest friends, and I would have liked to beat him as well. So it was just kind of like it was more of a joke. I said I wanted to play Tom all week because I want to play Scov, and I felt like singles might be my opportunity. But sometimes, when you're feeling good, you want to play the guy who's also seeming to get the ball in the hole fastest, or at least at the right time. So I wanted to play him, but I also thought we were going out earlier, so I'm not particularly sure why it was the 10th match. I'm not sure the plan there, but at the end of the day, I was excited to play him and see what I could do for the team, kind of coming in at the end of the individual matches.
What were your nerves like this week? Because it seemed like, again, we're kind of subject to what we get on the telecast, but just looking at the scorecards, it seemed like maybe some shaky front nines, and then once it settled in and once it was kind of like back nine, the matches on the line, you kind of seem like a different player. I'm curious if that's how it felt or if that's true or not.
It didn't feel quite like that. I mean, Thursday I was like extremely nervous. I really, really do. I know all jokes aside to you guys, playing with Tony Finau pretty amazing. Like, he is one of the greatest talents I've ever been around. So getting to play like a foursomes match with him feels like absurdly easy. And so Thursday I was really, really, really nervous, but he did a pretty great job of calming me down. And as we got moving through like the first 3-4 holes, I felt like I settled in to at least feel like I was playing a normal golf tournament. And then the next day, or the next match, I was pretty much, it was actually odd. The Friday match, I felt like I was like losing energy, and like as the back nine got on, it like picked up and ramped up. And when I realized, like, Billy made this huge putt on 14, and I like let out this big yell, and I realized that, you know, it kind of like got me back into the President's Cup kind of. I just felt like I was a little bit gassed. And then every match after that, I felt like the intensity kind of picked up and like the nerves picked up a little bit. But this morning I was definitely the most nervous. I played horrendous for 9 holes, like the worst ever. And it was just one of those things. Like, I just felt like I was being a rookie out there. I was trying to do a lot. I wasn't playing how I would normally play a match play event and all those things. And I just felt like it got to me a little bit. I was tired, and I was being like really hard on myself, which I've been very proud of myself about not doing that for like a month or so, which is a long time for me, if you were wondering. And I don't know, all of a sudden, like, we got to the 10th hole, I had a really good shot in, and my swing had felt great all day, and I was making good swings, and the ball's just not going the right distance or whatever. And then all of a sudden I just kind of like, I don't know, dug deep, got a little bit of help from Tom, and got on a roll from 12 to or 10 to, I guess, 16 or 17. So it was an interesting week. It's just a very emotional week. So like, you're kind of, I guess, looking to the future. If I get to play on one of these teams again, I feel like I have a better understanding of how I'm going to react to all of this, because it is a lot.
I appreciate you saying that about Tony too, because me and Randy have been saying that on this podcast for a long time, and Solid didn't
I've
really
heard
get
it.
it.
I was gonna
I've
say, I
heard.
feel like we've been evangelical about that, Deej, but nobody wants to
What-
listen.
I picked,
not
when
gonna
I
get
got
a rise
there
out
with
of him.
Tony, I remembered sitting in the kill house and screaming at Randy that he's an idiot for not thinking Tony should be on a team. So I remember that, and we went undefeated, me and him. So that felt nice.
Yeah, I don't
Just
know
agree
if
to
I
disagree on that one.
yeah, I
guess.
don't know if I remember that. Max, did you happen to get a look at Tony's mustache situation? People are saying he's got like half a mustache. I don't know.
Is it people or is it you?
No. This is not a bit. I promise this is not a bit.
No, they're all bits, Randy. Your name's actually Phil.
That's true. My real question is, on a very personal level, something that you can share. What did you learn? What was the most fun or exciting or just awesome thing you learned about spending time with like 11 of the, or really the international side too, but you spent the most time with the American guys, 11 of the other, best players in the world?
Sometimes I think as like I'm like Michael Scott, I romanticize situations in my head, and you show up to things like this that are like, this is an exhibition, right? Like, it's awesome, but it's an exhibition. And I show up with all the intensity in the world, excited. And you look around a room with 11 other guys who are the best players on the planet, and they treat it like it's an important piece of business, like working out in the morning, training before, doing work after, practicing. Scotty Scheffler was putting in the dark last night before we left. And you realize that someone had written me something interesting this week. It says success leaves clues. And I saw a lot of clues this week as to why these guys are the best players in the world. And it was cool to be around these people to watch how they approach their craft. And it shows why they are as good as they are. And it was fun to be immersed in that, because golf's very individual and lonely, and I do all this stuff on my own, and you don't know what anybody else is doing. It was cool to see everybody else treat this like I treat it.
Wow. That reminds that quote there reminds me of Max is I think it was 2008 US Basketball Olympics. LeBron seeing Kobe's workout, understanding his workout regime. Like the first time he realized that Kobe gets up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to go work out. Oh shit! Like that's what I got to do to be, whatever I need to be. And that was the first thing I thought of when you said that.
Absolutely.
So, all right, man. Well, I know you got some partying to get to tonight, and we greatly appreciate you keeping the tradition alive, man. It's very, very freaking. Last question: what grade would you give yourself for the week?
Fuck it, I'm giving myself an A.
Yeah.
I think that's very well deserved. We'll debate the merits of that once you sign off. But
that's fine. Go for it. Nobody's beaten me in the 2022-2023 season, so good luck. Good luck making that bit work, Randy.
All right, Max. Go have a great night, man.
Congrats, man.
You're the man.
Greatly appreciate it.
Love you guys.
Take care.
See ya.
Gosh, see, something about that U.S. team is just kind of like.
I know they're just not likable.
I want to shout out for the people that are going to be listening back on the podcast. There was a great comment at the end of Max's little speech. There is like, this is weirdly inspirational from a guy that just wants to party.
That's so. What the drunk thoughts are a sober man's whatever the phrase is, but drunk sayings are a sober man's thoughts. There you go.
Yeah.
Listen, Max is playing, I think we can all say, some of the best golf you could imagine. You can play your best golf with the Rapsodo MLM, the #1 rated personal launch monitor on the market today. Features incredibly precise measurements, remarkable accuracy, data-rich visuals, new performance combines. The thing is about the size of a rangefinder. It fits on the outside of your golf bag. It's got pairing Doppler radar with an iPhone or an iPad camera. It ensures that every golf ball is tracked, and it's incredibly accurate. It gives you shot tracing for every swing. It visually charts each shot for a better understanding of your consistency, your accuracy, and your length. It's incredible how much data you can get out of your practice sessions. It prevents you from mindlessly beating balls, and it actually helps you get better at the things you need to get better at. You can practice with a purpose every time you hit the range, just like Big Randy does. Better practice, better scores, better golf. Get the launch monitor every golfer needs. The MLM from Rapsodo, the official launch monitor of No Laying Up. Rapsodo.com/NLU. Promo code NLU for $100 off the MLM. And they're also offering a $30 off bundle for their premium subscription at the time. So don't waste any time. Rapsodo.com/NLU. Promo code NLU.
I think if there's any takeaway from what Max just got done saying there, it's that the best players just wing it. You don't need to practice. you don't need to try to do anything repeatable. Just get out there and hope for the best. That seemed to be what he saw.
You know what I will say too, last night I said it took me a long time to realize that the better you treat your body, like the better you'll feel. And the lesson that Max just talked about, like, actually having to be prepared and put in work. It took me a little longer to realize that life lesson as well. And I also want to give a shout out to my camera. It kept things interesting just about as long as the international team did today. So
to keep the pitching analogy going, I mean, it was just the most exciting part of the game. Randy gave him walked the bases loaded, gave him a grand slam. Unbelievable.
I love
through the order.
While Max is going, I'm like, well, this is clearly the highlight clip we're going to use in the teasers. And Randy's camera drops out. It'll be in all the teasers tomorrow.
It's not good.
All right, good. It's time to grade some papers. What do you guys think? You want to start with the national team, or you want to start with the Americans?
Let's start with the Americans.
Okay,
they're top on my list.
I put the I'm going to go in order of like how they made the team, basically, or their final rankings on the points list, if you will. Let's assume that to be a power rankings of everyone that made the team. Starting with the top, the eye test. Scotty Scheffler, 0-3-1. What are your grades for Scotty this week?
F.
Randy, you want to go first?
Yeah, F. #1 player in the world. Didn't get a point. I guess he got a half point. Was an anchor at one point to his teammate. Just a horrible week.
Didn't you used to be a teacher? This is malpractice.
I thought you guys said we were doing real grades, not this grade inflate. What am I supposed to give him, a C because he tried hard?
Well, that brings you to mine. I have C-. I don't think he was as bad as the record shows. I think he was a little bit better. Made five birdies in that the first 4-ball match. He played pretty nice in singles, and I think he ran into a couple of buzzsaws. So Randy, I get it. I know it doesn't look great having the #1 player in the world go lay a big egg out there, but I don't think it was quite as bad as it looked. And so I'm going C-. Still not great.
I think it was a good point that Davis Love made as well about how those guys how they were following around the best players the internationals put up their best match, best score, best whatever you want to call it every time against Sam Burns and Scheffler in each session, right? So there was a shank that makes kind of burns in your memory as to what his week was like. I'm going to call it a C. I think for the number one player in the world, we would we probably would expect a little bit more out of him. Yet at the same time, they put up 6 birdies, it looks like, in foursomes yesterday. And like you said, he put up 5 on his own in the 4-ball session that he played. I know their first foursome session was not so good. He and Burns both were kind of all over the place in that one. But I think it's a C. It's not quite Burns was a way better player than Scheffler this week, but it was not, kind of the same vein, though, to say like he deserved at least a better than a half a point, I would say.
Hold on. He's
gonna say Randy's gonna love Burns' grade.
It's super easy just to look at the records and give them a grade, right? Like that'd be the super easy part. This wouldn't take as long as it's going to take.
No, but at some point you got to consider he's allegedly the number one player in the world.
Really said that,
the best player in the world. And had I told you on Wednesday that, hey, Scheffler and Burns, they're going to play Siwoo Kim and Cam Davis and get beat. Okay, they're going to play Sung Jae Im and Sebastian Munoz and get beat. They're going to play KH Lee and Tom Kim and get beat. Like, I at a certain point, you gotta, if you're actually the best player in the world, you gotta win some matches.
And to that, I would say when they went up against Sebastian Munoz and the international team went birdie, birdie, par, par, birdie, 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 birdie to finish it. And Scheffler made 4 birdies in 6 holes.
So it was possible.
Yeah.
And that's what I want, the best player in the world. Why isn't he doing that?
He did a lot of that, is my point. So listen, we're not going to do this for
I think a C is soft.
That's fine. That's very fair. You're allowed to disagree. You've said your piece. Cantlay, 3-1. I'll start it. I am giving Cantlay a B+ for this week.
I'm right on that B+, A-.
Yeah.
I'm in a similar boat. The big highlights are the 6-5 win against their 2 best players, set the tone in a big ass way, and then I think his win today in singles probably was even a little more lopsided than it looked. The downside, of course, he got his nuts. Tom Kim dragged his nuts on his face, which was tough. That's where he gets the minus.
I'm with you guys. Nothing to add.
Okay.
Xander, 3-1. I am going to go with a B for Xander.
Cosign. It's exactly what I had as well. Just bad singles today, but otherwise pretty bulletproof.
Bad singles, but he also kind of saved them. If he makes a mess of 15, things get squirrely, as Solly alluded to earlier. So I'll put him on that same B+ line with his partner all week.
Sam Burns, 0-3-2. I am going for a B+ for Sam Burns.
Ooh, I got a solid C in that.
What?
I mean, listen, I'm trying to meet you in the middle here. He was still winless. He was still winless.
I almost gave him an A-.
I think that would have been ridiculous.
He was freaking awesome. He played really good golf. That's all you can ask him.
He was great.
But not good enough.
He was great. Yeah.
He was saddled with bad partners. He had to, he should be great on an entire.
Wait, who was his partner?
He had to play with Billy Horschel in the afternoon yesterday.
And who else?
Birdies on his own ball. What more do you want from him? How's that average?
Come on, just feed it.
What was the other bad partner?
Who else?
Yeah, who was the
partner?
other bad partner? Oh.
That's fair. Okay.
Who was his partner today? He didn't get a full point today.
He played great today. He went up against Hideki. I'm Team Burns all the way. He played very, very good golf this week. Sam Burns, if I may say, played better golf than Max Homa played this week.
We can discuss that when we get to Max.
What do you have for Burns?
A D+, which shows you I understand the nuance between, even though he did, he was a 0 in the win column for the reasons you said, he still deserves more credit than a guy like Scheffler.
You're not telling him to leave the class.
No,
I think there's promise there.
No, but it's not good. It's not good enough.
Wow. Okay.
JT, 4-1. I had A-.
I think A- is right.
That's what I had.
Yeah.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Finau.
Randy, what do you have?
I had that B plus, the Cantlay Xander line, B plus. I put him right there.
Guys, I had B plus as well.
How about that?
Can't can't overstate getting dragged down by Kisner in that 4-ball match.
That's and also
that's his
not
only
his fault.
loss, right?
Yeah. He was not great in that also, but yeah, that's tough being saddled with that.
Jordan Spieth. This
A
was
plus.
this was my only A plus.
Guys, you go 5-0, you get an A plus.
Yep.
Those are the rules.
Them's the rules. Morikawa at 2-1.
I had a B, solid B.
I'm gonna say B minus for Morikawa.
Where's the minus come from?
He was pretty bad in that second foursome session. He
Cam
played
Young?
with Cam Young. He played he played so well in that first. You know what? That's a low grade. I'm gonna go B. You're right. He played great in singles, great in the first match, one bad match.
Only got 3 looks.
I know that's tough. Even incomplete, if you will.
I had him at a
That's
B, and I don't know if he got sick, he got mono, he missed, we just had too many absences from Morikawa, but he did get the B.
Yep.
Incomplete's interesting.
We would have loved to have seen him in the classroom more.
And he's so participatory when he's there.
Right.
I think that's where
he's
you
a wonderful kid.
Max Homa, 4-0.
I'll start. I have him as an A, not an A plus, because you got to go 5-0 to get to the A plus. But as a rookie, was absolutely clutch in a number of big spots, which I think counts for a lot. I had him as an A.
Bulletin board material here. I'm going A minus because I think he played a little bit of minus golf in there, and it sounded like he even kind of admitted that himself. What did he shoot, 42 or something in the front nine today?
Yes.
That's tough. That's tough. And listen,
The final exam
still gets the A. His grades were good enough leading into it that it's not going to knock him off the A, but we need to reflect. That wasn't perfect.
For the golf he played this week, I'm going to give him a B plus. I'm expecting some pushback on this. I am. But he had some very clutch moments. Listen, he got the last question right on the exam, a lot of the exams. Okay. He finished strong in all of them. I think he was a B, which is a fantastic grade. I think his record, he was benefited from some of the pairings and he and Finau got away with some things in that first match that they played. They were not quite as sharp. They played a lot better the second time around. But I would say a B plus. If they ran it back and he played the same golf, I don't know if he would go 4-0 again. That's all to say. I'm very, very, very happy and proud of our friend.
He reminded me of the kid in high school. It's probably Randy now that I'm saying this out loud, but it didn't seem like he studied for the test, but he flipped it at the bottom and he still got the grades.
Well, and that's what I was
going to say. Cody, what do you got? The star just popping in.
Dude, great.
I get it. I understand what you're saying. I understand his front nine was backed. He turned it around on the back nine. He got the W.
Right.
That's all that matters. And how would any of you guys play when somebody shows up to the first tee like this?
That's true.
Like what?
That's true.
What else do you want from the guy?
And he wanted that fight. He asked for that fight.
He did.
And
I kind of want to take the minus away.
And
just
you know
because
what?
He, called it shot.
He fucking won.
Yes, I know.
He dug it out.
Code man, I'm with you. These guys are taking points away because he didn't show his work properly enough. Part of the action, you got to show me the long division.
He might have been looking off of someone else's test.
Well, maybe.
Again, I'm just saying.
He said himself he was looking off Big Tone's test for a lot of those first 2 days.
No, Big Tone gave him last year's test. It wasn't cheating in the moment, but he gave him last year's test.
If you look at the first round, they got Pendrith and Mito in the first day. They were 4 over through 6 holes.
Kind of a movie day.
They won that match. I'm just saying it was a tight little margin in there. Okay, we're happy. We're thrilled with 4-0. If it was just based off 4-0, it'd be an A. Of course, Randy. Come on. I'm showing him.
I will say he won with Horschel, and
that's the biggest point you've made to this point. He should get an A. I'll bump it up to an A minus.
Thank you.
Thanks solely that he carried Horschel to a win.
Thank you.
Who wants to go first on Horschel? 1 and 2 for the week.
I'm a fair teacher. I think life is about more than just sometimes the answers you put on the page. So I'm giving Billy a C+ because I love
unless it's for Scheffler.
unless it's for Scheffler. Because I love the way he
just
looked this week.
expect so much more.
I love the way he looked. And you know what? Life is about book smarts as well as street smarts, and I don't want to discourage Billy just based off of his matches this week because I thought he looked damn good.
So what did you say? Sorry, C+?
Just
C+.
based on his hair. That's literally just based on his hair.
Well, based on his play, I gave him a D+.
I'm giving him a D- because anyway, he's
Thin-
coming down
Thin
off-
ice, mister.
because he didn't bring what he was supposed to bring, like the fire. And I know that kind of comes from making putts and big moments, which he didn't really have, but we needed him to be the antagonist. We needed him to be that personality. He didn't even bring that to the table. He weighed down Sam Burns again, wasted Sam Burns a 64 on Saturday afternoon and just could not give him anything. And I think he had like a 4-foot birdie putt at one point today to win a hole, and he 3-putted it. He pulled a Danny Willett, one of the only times they showed him, and he just gave KH Lee absolutely nothing in the singles. And he didn't really give that much to Max in their 4-ball session either. He had 2 birdies there, but Max slammed the door with the birdies on 17 and 18. But no, it was D-. It was not a good showing for Horschel.
Randy's grade to Horschel might be he might be getting athlete treatment in Randy's class.
Oh, I like
you know, we got a big conference game coming up on Friday.
We got to keep him eligible.
Coach is saying it'd be really nice to have Billy on the team.
Exactly.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I will say he got a point and Scheffler got a half point.
But he beat the lowly Canadians for that point.
That's
So,
true.
yeah.
Well, I got some thoughts on the Canadians.
all right, Cam Young, 1, 2, and 1. I had a C- here.
That's what I got. C-.
I think he was done some favors by some early TV coverage. I think the big drives, a couple big putts. I think people were like, "Wow, he was playing great," and I don't think it was as good as maybe people thought.
I had written down C, but I will meet you guys at C-.
Hell yeah.
for consensus.
The putting was bad. It was worrisome. I'm wondering if we'll get a little data in the aftermath of this because it's hard to kind of quantify it. But eye test on the putting was not very good. Ball striking was okay, but still not Cam Young quality. And I expected a little bit more out of him this week. First time, like he's got room for improvement. I mean, he's got a lot of semesters ahead, and I got a 2.4 my first semester of college. Like I bounced back as well. So.
And just because I don't want to see him in class next year. I'm done with him. Kisner, I gave him a D. Get him out of here. Keep him moving.
That's such a resigned teacher right there. Just everything, the whole
Mr.
reason.
Kisner, I am up to here with you.
The
right
whole
now.
reason you got into the profession was to help people like Kisner, and you just can't do it. You just give him his grade and let the next year's teacher deal with that mess. I respect it. I'll join you.
I don't know if we can even grade him. I mean, he was kind of like a mascot. He basically admitted it in the press conference, was saying that's why they picked me was for the post game party, which
Kisner was auditing the President's Cup. I don't even know if he was actually like, what are we doing? I think you're just sitting in the back. Sir, you're not enrolled. We can't give you a grade.
Making a couple fart noises when the teacher bends over.
I think Kiz gets an F. I saw nothing that would
wearing sunglasses. What are you, high back there?
That would wear
Mr. Kisner, thank you for joining us this morning. The rest of the class is on page 56.
Cody,
what are we being unfair to Kisner, Cody?
No, I agree with everything. One question I wanted to ask from you guys before we move over to the international team, but who would be the team MVP from the U.S. side?
Spieth.
Okay. Who are you most disappointed in?
I feel like you're doing like some interrogator stuff, trying to get us to meet Randy a little more closely, because I feel like it's Scotty. But I don't know. Solly, what do you think? You can't.
I'm honestly gonna.
I know. Don't let him. We can plead the fifth. We can wait till our attorneys get here.
I'm gonna say. I'll say Scotty, number 1 player in the world. I need to see a little more. He played probably a little better than the record shows. I know, but I still needed a little bit more. But Young that and Young honestly were my 2 that I was most disappointed in. I think
I was most disappointed in Young just because I was super hopeful this would be a true kind of coming out party,
Yes.
set the stage for a gigantic 2023 season.
And he was put in a position to succeed is with Morikawa, I would say. That first day, Morikawa was throwing nothing but darts in there, and they won that match, but he kind of held them back a little bit. But
What about Davis Love? I didn't have him on my list,
Mm.
but what kind of grade are you giving Captain Love?
I think a flat C.
C+.
You won, but I think he was totally fungible.
Yeah, I would agree with
Got
that.
the job done, but they they took their foot off the gas on Saturday afternoon. Was kind of what happened at Medina as well. He redeemed Medina. I feel like people were quick to kind of dunk on him and say, kind of shit on his captaincy. But I thought he was actually a really good captain at Medina, and obviously was really good at Hazeltine. But got the job done. Again, I just don't. It's really hard to motivate guys to win by more than they did. So
Blowing 2 4-point leads would have been all-time stuff, though.
Really
that would have been really sick.
on to the internationals. We'll
Yeah.
start at the top. Hideki Matsuyama 1-3-1 this week.
He was in. I had him as a C-, which I guess that's kind of. Is that what I gave Scotty too? Because I might need to either bump one of them up or down, but only because expectations were massive. The team kind of had to. The team was kind of going to go where Hideki and Adam Scott went, and he absolutely was MIA the first couple days. It seemed like he found it coming down the stretch and started figuring it out and piecing it together. But dude, just going out and getting drummed 6-5 in that first match that's tough. So I might actually bump that to like a D+.
And that's what I had, DJ. I had a D+, and my putting my teacher hat on. Sometimes you got to be tough graders with kids that you think have exceptional potential, and you got to instill the message that 1-3-1 this week is not good enough, Hideki. That's not good enough for you, and I think you nailed it with coming out and getting beat 6-5 in the first match of the event. Is just a horrible start.
I'm right between D+ and C-. The first day was really bad, and he was not bad since then. He got roughed up by Cantlay and Schauffele when they were playing really, really freaking really good golf on day one in the foursomes. And then, they ran into him again in the afternoon. I kind of want to give him a pass because that was peak Cantlay and Schauffele, it felt like. And he played solid after that. But, man, the putting's just got to get figured out. I can't do another decade of watching him waste that many good iron shots.
Can someone who's good at putting explain to me how lifting the toe up that much doesn't just shrink the sweet spot like crazy? Like how do you ever hit it consistently off the center of the face when you are basically just like eliminating surface area on your putter? That makes no sense to me.
His toe is more towards the ground now than it once was, but I just don't know how you haven't tried anything. We've talked about this week, but why you haven't tried broomstick, saw, mallets, exorcism, anything. I mean, he had the internationals honestly got undone by some just crippling 3-putts this week from spots they had no business 3-putting from. Hideki had a really bad one on 7 on one of the days. And it's a waste of a lot of really, really good ball striking. I think people probably don't appreciate how freaking good Hideki is because he just does not get the damn thing in the hole. But Sungjae 2-2-1. I'm gonna say B- for Sungjae this week.
I had him at a flat B only because I would consider Randy. I don't know if you guys did many team projects where you were, but you got to consider that those 2 losses he was paired with little Corey Connors, and it's pretty clear when a partner is just not pulling their weight. So without you take those, I mean, especially alt shot, right? Like he's not hitting half the shots in those 2 losses that he had, and you take those away, and he's 2-0-1. It's a very different week. So I'm giving him a flat B.
I'll bump it to B. I'm with you there. You're right that he was saddled with Corey Connors, and I can't hold that against him.
I love it. I'll join you guys with a B. Nothing to add.
Tom Kim at 2-3.
So I have him.
This is interesting,
right? I have him as an A. And I realize the record is 2-3 at the end of the day, and that's what people are, that's what flies forever on his record.
Let me,
But-
as you go into this, what kind of class are you teaching here? Is this a science class or is this like a creative writing class that you're describing this grade?
This is much more on the.
Sounds like you're grading soft skills here.
Yeah, we're in a liberal arts
Okay,
institution.
okay, and that's fine. I'm just making sure.
But I thought Tom Kim was the most important person in that team room, and for the energy and the enthusiasm. I think he was the source of it, and it started to spread to other people by the end of the week. And I think that's a hugely important role for him to play. And I'm astonished at 20 years old, he realized that role needed to be filled, and for him to have the gumption and the guts to take that on, I just am so impressed with him.
He did a lot of extra credit. He did so much extra credit. Like he did not have perfect grades all throughout, but with all the extra credit he did, I will also give him an A. Because there's also a huge entertainment aspect to this. And he brought that and gained a shitload of fans. This week could not have gone much better for Tom Kim. And that putt on 18 on Saturday will, for the sickos, will live forever. Like people will not forget that. Anyone that was watching that will not forget that.
I appreciate everything you guys are saying. Unfortunately, I taught Mr. Kim in thermodynamics 301, which is a very black and white course, and I'm giving him a B minus for that. He had 3 losses to his name. He couldn't get it going in those first couple matches. Like the birdies came very late when he was kind of already dead. 0-2 on day 1 when, where was the energy then? Hilariously big day on day 2. Unbelievable. He came all the way back from what would have been a pretty low grade, but then again, kind of seemed to run out of gas in his singles match against Max. I'm giving him a big grade for the intangibles as well. I love it. And what I think is an interesting double-edged sword is he seemed to not like in any kind of like this is a story way, but he seemed like he really pissed off Cantlay, which I think is a pro and con, right? Like I think that's hilarious and it's great, but I also think Cantlay like came out with a murderous rage today, and there's nobody on the planet that was going to beat him. So B minus all told. I think that's a little unfair, and I'm kind of doing a bit, but we can move on.
I don't think it's I think that's a very valid way to, you've taken a different lens to look at his week.
Well, he's got a full course load, right? It's not all It's not all creative writing,
right?
Next up, Corey Connors, 0-4 F.
This will be my only F.
Yeah, we need you to repeat the grade. Corey.
Yeah, you are not up to the challenge here, and a lot of that is it's kind of the total package, right? And I feel bad because I root for Corey Connors, and I was like expecting him to have a massive week, which is kind of part of why it's so freaking disappointing. Expectations were super high and just came out totally flat. I can't tell if they were joking on the broadcast or not about him like potentially hyperventilating going to mark that putt, but that's not what you need out of a really, really big horse on your team.
And what made it so much worse was that Thursday foursomes match, they only lost 2-1, right? If he's a little bit better, they can maybe flip that point. He and Pendrith lost 1 down to Horschel and Homa. If you're just a little bit better, you can flip that. And the singles match was the same thing today. Like Xander was dying to be beaten today, and Corey refused. And I mean, shit, those are the 3 points, right? If he's better, you take those 3 points, and the internationals have 15.5.
Yeah. It's I almost feeling bad is always a weird thing to say about professional golfers, but I do feel for someone that is very, very talented, very good, an extremely good ball striker, and someone that should have been one of the international team studs, roll out and go to play for the week and just realizing you don't have it, and just having that, oh fuck, like I can't hide anywhere. Like I'm gonna have to keep going out here. Like they're gonna sit me until the final session, really, and then I gotta go play singles like on my own ball, and I don't have it in front of all these people in a environment it's the comfort level has to even get exacerbated on the decrease side when it's you don't have your game and it's a different environment, right? Like it's a whole other variable that you don't know how to snap yourself out of. And no
to
joy.
that point though, Solly, I think Corey, like you talk about what do good coaches do? They put their players in the best position to succeed. And I thought Immelman did Connors a disservice playing him 4 sessions, especially when you look at like Sebastian Munoz only played 3, Bezadenhout only played 2, KH Lee only played 3 sessions. I thought the big crime was, man, you got to protect and hide Corey, and Immelman failed to do that.
This is Corey's first one, right?
Yes.
It's interesting to see the difference between, and listen, maybe it's a small sample size and maybe he just didn't have it, and that happens sometimes, right? But I think looking at it in a vacuum here, it's interesting to see the guys that really, really get up. Like this is a very different week than what they have week to week on the PGA Tour, right? Where I talked about some of the Korean guys and how they're probably pretty anonymous going from tournament to tournament. I think Corey Connors is pretty anonymous going to tournament to tournament too. And I think he kind of just plugs away and does his own thing. And he's never in like massive spots, right? I mean, he has a lot of very nice finishes and a lot of top 20s and a lot of top 10s, and he's played well in some majors, but this is a different spotlight. And I think you got to be wired a little bit differently. And so I think I don't know, you got to kind of look at like all the, oh my God, we're going to think about this guy differently going forward. Like that kind of cuts both ways, right?
Mm-hmm. That's well said.
The next one in Canada, I expect him to be on that team, and I expect it to go better for him. I do. It's not a stain on your entire career. It's just like, dude, it's a really bad week at a really bad time.
Yeah.
And
Also, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, shout out on Thursday, or I forget when we did it, but the good news for Corey is it can't get worse. So you know, when you're in Canada, man, just be free and let it rip. Which happened to my very first freshman basketball team I was coaching.
And to your point about sitting him, Randy, it's like if he's not there, like it's not going to be your week, right? Like he's one of those guys that if they are going to flip this thing, and I get what you're saying about Bezadenhout and KH Lee and Munoz and all that stuff, but like predicting that is impossible, right? And if Connors and Matsuyama and Adam Scott and all those guys start slow, it's like, yeah, they won the weekend, but dude, you're so far behind to catch up that you got no chance.
Yeah. Immelman said stick to the plan, and he stuck to it, and they did win the weekend, right? And so it's I don't know. I'm with you. Like sitting here now, Munoz should have played more than Connors, obviously, but I just don't think you can know that. Even after 2 sessions, it's hard to know that the guy coming off the bench is going to go deliver like that.
No, but conversely, your only chance, you have to be perfect. You have no margin as captain of the international team. And so I hear the stick to the plan, but it's like, guess what, man, that you're too late. Like you had to take a chance earlier.
Adam Scott, 2 and 3.
I had a solid C. You could talk me down on that, but he seemed like he was a momentum killer on day 1, but then he seemed like he really found it and was kind of a spark for people. He looked awesome on day 2, getting both of those wins, and then kind of, I don't know if Cantlay was getting beat by anybody today, so I had kind of a middle of the road C.
Day 3 was the day he had both wins.
Sorry, right.
For the record stating, but
that always throws me off. It's been a long week.
I will say a C for Adam Scott as well. Very kind of tough scene to start, and then really some good golf on the Saturday. But yeah, I think a C is fair.
I had a D plus. I think he and Hideki are your horses, and to no show along with Hideki that first day was a huge detriment to the team. He did have a wonderful day 3. So I would hear like a C minus, but I don't want to go any higher than that.
It's just not comfortable.
No, I'm not comfortable.
Mito Pereira, 0-2 and 1. It's a hard one to grade. I don't feel like he played decent golf when he was on the golf course, but I don't think I saw a lot of it. And he got run off by Colin Morikawa today, but he didn't play bad by the scorecard look of it. And I want to say C minus, but I don't really know if I have enough to grade on.
I had C minus written down, and as you're talking, I was like, oh, that's way too harsh. I don't know. I'll say solid C as well. I don't kind of the forgotten man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there. I would go C minus, D plus. Didn't do anything.
KH Lee 2-1.
I had a B for KH Lee. One of the few winning records on the team. I wish we had, as covered by my colleague Randy, wish we had seen him more. I think I was shouting that coming into the week. Took down Scheffler and Burns, best player in the world, as been documented. Played nice in singles today. Just a first time out there. Didn't seem to be really scared of it. It's I'm in on KH Lee. KHB, as some people are calling him in the comments.
I'll join you on KHB.
I'll give him a B. And of course, he captured the Mr. Sexy title today. A shame he only played 3 sessions. I can't go any higher than a B because we only played 3 times.
Yeah, and the 2-1 looks a lot different probably if he doesn't, draw Horschel in the singles, and so it just keeping that in mind as well. I think it's an inflated record, if you will. Munoz 2-0-1. I give Sebastian Munoz an A for this week. That was all Emmelman ever could have asked out of him.
I co-sign. Yeah. I was thinking B plus, and the more I thought about it, the more I think it's, man, what a guy that outperformed his expectations, his role, all of that stuff. I'm with you, Solly.
Yeah, I had him at an A minus. Super impressed with him this week. He's a guy that was like just another guy for me going into this weekend. I would see his name on leaderboards. Yeah, whatever. Like, stirred no emotion, and I'm going to come out of this weekend with such a better appreciation for who he is as a person, and I think he's going to really make me look forward to watching him play golf, which is, that's a win.
How about that? I think we probably should have established this up front, but we're kind of grading them based on what their talent level, or like what we're expecting out of them, right? And because like a 2-0-1 and Scotty or Jordan Spieth getting the same grade. I think we can recognize the differences there, though, right? But it's like
Spieth got an A plus.
Well, true.
And those are not given out lightly by this thermodynamics teacher.
Christian Bezadenhout, 1-0-1.
Talk about incomplete. This is kind of an incomplete grade. If I'd gone to my head, I'm giving him a B plus. I don't really know. He got rolled out there twice and he didn't get beat. It's hard to argue with too much. I don't think he played the best golf of anybody, but he didn't get beat. I don't think Kisner was the toughest opponent in singles, but got the job done.
I'm giving him a C. In his 4-ball match, he was not very good. He didn't really bring a whole lot to the table. He just was fortunate enough to go against Kisner in that match as well. And then, the singles match, didn't really get to see any of that match today. But if we're looking at the sheet, he made 3 birdies today, but was shot 1 over on the front. He just didn't really do a whole lot, and there's probably a reason why he sat a whole heck of a lot. So in that regard, I'm going to give him a C.
I'll give him a B. He produced in the spots he was asked to produce.
Taylor Pendrith 0-4. I am going to go with a D plus.
I had a D plus as well. I just took the plus away. It's going to be a solid D. He did have his losses on day one were narrow, but they were still. He did lose them both, and he kind of just seemed to get weaker as the week went on. I thought he started with some flash, but seemed to kind of run out of gas or just get swallowed up as the week went on. And getting run down by Big Tone was tough today. We needed him to hold the line, and he kind of just got pancaked.
I have him as a D. Appreciably better than Corey Connors, although they were both 0-4. But I just can't go higher than that when you are 0-4.
Yeah, I think I'm giving a lot of weight to that putt in the shot he hit into 18 on the in the 4-ball session on Friday.
Yeah,
because if Max doesn't make that putt, he looks like a hero in that regard, and Max making that putt is out of his control. So demonstrably better than Connors, I thought. Siwoo Kim at 3-1.
What'd you have?
I'm gonna go A minus.
I had a solid B, just because he got beat pretty hard in round 3, and some of that Tom Kim heroics were kind of because Siwoo was like totally out to lunch. but the singles match, I mean, that was maybe the most impressive feat of the day. As my associate Tron would say, it was big dick stuff from Siwoo Kim today. So 3-1, some real high highs and some kind of low lows. Nets out to a B for me.
I gotta give him an A-.
Wow.
Well, you just look at he's the only guy on that team that has 3 in the win column, right? I think the statement
Part of the rubric, man. It's your hands are tied.
the statement he made in that opening match today was exactly the type of statement they would have needed to pull off the miracle. And I think it's really a shame that he didn't go out on day 2 after he and who was his partner, Cam Davis. They played so well together Thursday.
Yeah, I got no problem giving Siwoo, especially going out first today in singles and winning that match over 4-0 JT. That got him a bunch of extra credit points.
Yeah, you guys talk me up. I'm going to go to A-. That's interesting.
Cam Davis at 2-3. I'm going to go B+ for Cam Davis. He was asked to do a lot. He did a lot. The record is a losing record, but went 5 sessions, played some outrageous golf on Saturday. And I think overall he was a big asset to the international team.
I agree with you. I had the same. I think that 3 losses is kind of, there's a couple records that probably look better, but he had to go all 5. Right. And so I think a couple of those records that look nice now, if they go all 5 sessions, who knows how they shake out. So I'm giving him a little leniency there.
I had a B-. I thought on the whole it was a good week for Cam Davis. Disappointing singles match today, and the only other knock, he was the hero in Saturday 4-ball, but man, such a security blanket because Adam Scott was right there on each of those holes. So I go B-, but I still thought this was a good week for Cam Davis.
Captain Trevor Immelman.
I'll start. I'll give him. I think on the whole it was a B. I thought the on the intangible side it was an A. Right. I loved what he was about. I loved the message he was preaching. I loved his attitude. I thought some squirrely pairings are what take it down to a B for me, and they might not have mattered, but to have any chance to actually win, you got to be perfect in who you're putting out there and the pairings that you're making. And I didn't think he was that.
I would co-sign all that, Randy. I totally agree. I had the same thing in my head.
I got a B+ for him. I agree with everything you said. I think it's a bit of. I know this is not necessarily what you're saying, but I think in hindsight he could have done better with the pairings. I think it's always hard to put those names up there and just be at will of how it all plays out. But in hindsight, missing out on not getting enough out of Munoz is probably what knocks him down a couple notches. I was thinking about this too. The Saturday session where both those sessions are 4 matches each, and you get to rest 4 guys in each session. From that moment on, that's when the internationals got a lot out of their team. And the first 2 days are 5 matches each. And that's just where the U.S. depth just comes into play. And the internationals just got spread out a little too thin on those days and got waxed. And I do wonder if this was Ryder Cup format in points and only 28 points, if things would have gone differently those first couple of days. Hadn't really thought of that until just now. I know they've done better at reducing some match numbers over the years to kind of help get rid of that advantage that the U.S. has in depth, but that played a factor this week.
I hadn't thought about that either until you just said that, but I would totally agree. I mean, I guess they're probably trying to get more golfers out there just to have. We've all been to these events, and you basically have 5 times as many players or as many fans out there with 1/5 as many players, and I think they're probably just trying to give more action to follow. But from a competition standpoint, I would agree with you,
guys. I got one more grade. Quail Hollow.
Ooh, talk about a. You know what, Randy? I had Quail Hollow's older brother a couple years ago in class, and I fucking hated him. He was the worst. And so I was coming
Just
into
a
this,
smart ass.
and they're just coming through every year. The hollows, right? It's just we see them every year. They're always the same thing. They're always running the same playbook. And for whatever reason, this one, the youngest one, just really charmed me in a way that the others had not. And I'm going to give Quail Hollow like a B plus. I actually like really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good test. It was cool to like go through a lot of the singles kind of scorecards today and just see, like, other than Morikawa, I mean, nobody really went low. It was like a very stern test. There was a lot of runoffs and razor's edges and all those things that we've been talking about all week. Greens it was fun to watch them putt kind of the lightning greens. It was, for what it was, I think it was I thought it was great.
I'm going to give it a B. I agree with everything you said. I think the design is still rather dull. Several dull par fours out there, but I think the setup I would give an A. Setup I'll give a B plus. I still do think it was just a little too fast on the greens that made for tentative putting, which I think for this made for TV product doesn't necessarily always. It's like what we kind of want out of normal championship golf. Yes. Some challenge in it, but it just didn't feel like there were a ton of opportunities to make a lot of, as I say that, as the week went on, a lot more bomb putts went in, but setup was really good. I think the golf course was better than I was expecting out of Quail Hollow. So I'll co-sign a lot of that. Randy, what'd you think?
I agree. Nothing much to add. I was going to give it a B. Exceeded expectations.
What about?
Do you want to do the broadcast?
Yeah.
I got nothing more to add.
Many people are just asking for a grade on the broadcast.
Before we get to the broadcast, obviously well documented, everybody talking about the international team on how the guys who went to live severely hampered their chances.
Yes.
But if you would take an American that went to live, who would it be and where would they, how do you think their performance would be on this team?
Taking any.
You're saying
obviously DJ is going to be
the
on
missing
this team.
Americans. I think he's the only one that I'm even like thinking about.
Yes.
Right. I'm not. Bryson's not making the team based on what he was doing. Brooks is not making the team based on what he was doing. Who is it after that? Cam Tringali and Varner and
What about the Gooch?
Taylor Gooch might have been on the team. I take that back.
I would put Gooch on the team over Horschel. I would take Brooks over Horschel too. I think. I mean, Kiz would be the obvious bump with DJ.
Yeah.
And we're also forgetting. We haven't said the name Will Zalatoris, who was to be a big swinging dick on this team,
and that's a bummer because I would have loved to have seen him in this situation, and he has been playing some really good golf.
Do you guys want to talk Rome, or do you want to debrief?
Well,
you want to talk coverage? That's what you want to do. Or are we just grading the coverage?
That's great. I got nothing else to say. The people were just asking for a grade on the coverage, for which I would say D minus. I would give them a passing grade just because they got it on the air, and it was it's a long week, but certainly nothing to celebrate whatsoever. D minus for me.
And that's really along the same lines of I'd struggle to come up with a positive to it. It was just treated, for as much as they hype this event, is treated like worse than their normal events. Absolutely criminal. Like, there's no reason to play these matches if they're not televised. Like, there's no reason for Kisner and Bezadenhout to play the 8th hole today if it's only for the people that were there in person to watch it, right? The fact that there's not the ability to stream the matches that we want is such a fucking joke. It's such a joke for their biggest, the event that they hang their hat on the most. I'm not going to get worked up about tonight. I'm not going to do it.
Y'all going to make me get worked up. I'm not going to do it.
And Randy, before you say we're being
he's
soft,
going on vacation. He's not going to do it.
The only thing that lifts the grade for me is I thought the encore, the actual crew was solid. I thought Dan Hicks and Zinger were solid. I thought all the on-course people were great. I thought John Wood continually is. I feel like you don't really notice it because it's expected at this point, but he's really, really, really good. That's a really hard job, and he does an awesome job. So they're bringing up the D minus is much more reflective of whoever on the team project signed the TV contracts, because they're abominable. But
I know, and it hit. I know this is not a new thought, just to add, but it just sometimes it just hits you, right? You guys have all experienced this, like the graphics just not being able to show where each match stands on the TV screen, either on like a little bottom ticker or, guys, there's this whole other golf league and they figured out this scoreboard down like the left side of the screen. It
On
it
tape
it
one.
it truly, like, this is not hyperbole. It's inexcusable. It's totally inexcusable. And the only thing it leads me to believe is like they either don't care or they have no pride. Like, just be you gotta be better. Be better. Be better at your jobs.
Here, big.
I don't understand why, like, the basic graphics that we get week in and week out are missing here, though. Like, even like, this is whoever shot, this is his yardage, this is the club that he selected. He's currently 2 down. Like, basic
No
stuff
yardages
is
or
gone.
barely any yardages, barely any
lack
clubs.
lack of tracers.
Hardly
right?
any tracers.
I know. It's
somehow getting worse.
Solly,
and-
like you said, like this is supposed to be a crown jewel event for the
Yeah.
have some pride.
And
This is the same people that, like, I remember thinking back to the players this year and like all this new tech and everything that they come out with wind and everything. Like, where is that at here? Like, that's what this stuff, like, this event is made for all that stuff.
Which I think just shows you, like, exactly that is, it's all money, right? It's not like they're not able to do it. Like, we say this at the players every year, is like, when you get the commercial load out of the way, like, it's not like it's a different crew that's there. Like, they know how to do it. They have all the tools. It's purely resources. And so whether that's them overpaying for rights and reaping that and not like having to make cuts elsewhere, whether it's Comcast, the fact that there's fucking 4 companies in the entire world and Comcast is one of those, and when they do bad, all of golf does bad. Like, all, like, it could be any number of things. It's just it has to come down to just resources, I would guess.
I made this point on Twitter, Solly, real quick. I'll toss it to you. But the one upshot of Live being created was, hey, you know what? Competition. This should force the tour and the tour's partners to invest in a better product, and to totally fall flat this weekend in that regard is such an awful sign of things to come.
Oh yeah,
So,
nothing's gonna change.
yeah, to you.
Nothing's gonna change. It's really super depressing, and yeah, really cool wagon we've hitched ourselves to here. Grade for the President's Cup for the week, I guess.
Let me start off the discussion here. So I saw in the waning moments of the competition today, things on Twitter, and I certainly think it was both captains' opinions that we shouldn't touch the President's Cup. This was great. We'll see everybody in 2 years. I think you cannot convince me that this wouldn't be a more exciting, engaging, talked about event as a co-ed event. I think it'd be wonderful for the game of golf at large, the professional game, and really, when we start to think about growing the game and trickle down effects, having 12 or 14 or 16, whatever the number would be, of the best women in the world right alongside the best men in the world competing for country. That's a powerful thing for the game of golf, and would be such a wonderful representation for so many young girls, and it just would be an awesome thing. And you cannot convince me that the President's Cup status quo is the best version of itself, and that's where I fall out. Nothing about this week changed my opinion on that.
I think what's tough, Randy, I fully agree with everything you just said. And I think what's tough about it is when the best version of itself is still a worse version of what it's ripping off. You know what I mean? Like, there is no identity because it's such a blatant fucking ripoff of another event. And it's like, dude, you could give us all the cameras, all the crew, all the everything to do our best job at ripping off a Martin Scorsese movie. It's probably not going to be as good because like we're trying to copy something else. And like the thing Was it enjoyable this week? Yes. Did I have a good time watching it? Sure. Did I learn something about other new players that I hadn't known that much about? Yes, definitely. Was it like a way worse version of the Ryder Cup? Yes, it was. Right. And I think anybody who's like, this is as good as golf gets has so little fucking imagination that's why golf kind of finds itself in the place that it does very, very frequently. So I would say from a grade, I thought it was like a C plus to a B minus, because I think that kind of illustrates like how good the Ryder Cup is, right? Like at its peak, I just don't think this is ever going to be anything better than kind of a knockoff Ryder Cup. And I hope that doesn't come across as like something cheap to any of the players or coaches or anything like that, because they are clearly loving it and they take it very seriously. And that's not a shot at anything. It's just purely from a fan perspective. I mean, what else? Like, buddy, what else do you want me to think of this event that is, again, the US versus the rest of the world minus certain continents? Like, it's all so arbitrary and like contrived that I don't totally, I commend them at trying to give the internationals more of an identity, and I think they're doing a great job at that. But I don't know how you ever get over that hump without changing the format to what you're talking about, Randy. And that on day one gives it so much more of an identity.
You said it all basically. I was going to give it a B minus. I think just basically because team golf, it gave us some of those moments, and it was mostly on the international side. It was the way Saturday ended, the Tom Kim, the celebrations in the team room afterward, their celebrations on the 18th green. That's like, dude, that happens literally in 2 men's events total once a year. That happens, and we got that this weekend. I'd still much rather watch the President's Cup than even like a premium PGA Tour week. I just think there's more interesting storylines, fun stuff to talk about. It's entertaining. Yet that's literally like that's not a credit really at all to any of the organization of it, because it's just team golf. Like it's just, there's something interesting about that. And I think it can be a lot better for the exact reasons you said with a mixed event. I think it would, and I get the argument that like, hey, we're in the early phase of this. There's only been however many of them. And, at this point in the Ryder Cup history, the U.S. was up like 21-3 or something like that. And, look what the Ryder Cup turned into. I get it. I just think golf is at a very different time period. The world's at a very different time period of globalization where it, is not, that's not the most apt comparison really. And it's not,
well, it's also at a different point because, I mean, think of like the business that the President's Cup does, right? And the whole point of like how much weight of the President's Cup needs to be on the entertainment factor, because they just want to turn it into such a big machine. If this was like something like the President's Putter at Rye in England, and it's an untelevised club championship full of like history, then Solly, I'm totally with you in that, like, yeah, let the record be lopsided and we'll sort it out over the next century. But it's like, dude, if you're trying to compete for eyeballs and you're trying to give this thing an identity, like, you can't give me all the for the cup stuff and like treat this like it's some sort of like close competition. Like it's not there.
Good comment just now. And the Ryder Cup went through pretty drastic change, right?
Yeah.
Going from just GB and I to all of Europe. That's Tom Denaway. Great point there. So there's precedent too for making pretty drastic changes.
On to Rome. Does this week change anything about? Listen, I'm the only one that thinks about Rome around the clock here, and so I'm not accusing. Maybe I'll just ask myself this: does this week change anything about how you guys feel about the U.S.'s chances or likelihood of turning the tide in the Ryder Cup?
So let me answer your question with a question. Does it change any of your thoughts on where we're going?
A teeny tiny bit. I would say I'm 10% less optimistic about their chances to go win. I think I still have a shitload of belief in this group of players and this team. And it is only the mystique of playing in Europe and this hurdle that they can't ever. It's that, that feeling halfway through the first session when in Europe, every time when you're like, oh, fuck, it's going to happen again, isn't it? Is the only thing causing me any pause. Like it's going to take, there's something magical about going over there that's going to prevent them from winning. It won't be their talent. Like it just won't. This group is entirely different than any other team that has made that journey on the ship for 3 weeks over across the ocean, across the Atlantic, to go play in Europe. It's the only 3 guys that I think will be left from the 2018 team. All had winning records in Paris. There's no Phil going 0-2. There's no Tiger going 0-4. There's no Bryson going 0-2. No Brooks going 1-4. DJ went 1-4 on the road the last time out. Like, it's an entirely different team. So I sense from European Twitter a lot of just a invincibility when it comes to playing Ryder Cups at home. And why wouldn't you? They do win it every time. I know it feels like we say this every time, but this one feels different. It feels like a different group of guys that I'm not sure Europe is going to have the talent turned around in time and developed in time to be able to match the depth that I think we expect to see there next time. So I expect the European or the US to win. This is not me guaranteeing a victory. I think it will be relatively close. I don't think they're going to blow their doors off, but I think it's time that they flip it on them.
I agree with you. I think, this can change day by day, and I'm sure it will for the next year. But I love the idea also of these guys going over without any scar tissue. Both, you could convince me that that's a really, really great thing, and you could convince me that like what's going to happen when they get punched in the mouth is a really bad thing, and that's super compelling to me. I think that actually makes it really, really interesting. Like, are we going to see some of the same? I think we've said that about a lot of the past US teams, that they just they get down and they just kind of turn petulant and unfun to watch, and some of those things. Will that happen? I don't really know. What happens when Xander and Cantlay and JT and some of those guys go out and they lose the opening session 4-0 or something like that? Like, I think that's super compelling, but that also might not happen. And based on every single stat you can come up with, it probably won't, but it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, not much to add. I think Rome is the ultimate litmus test, right? I read the European writers and the Twitter sentiment not so much as like beating their chest about the record in Europe, although there is some of that, but more so like, hey, let's pump the brakes on calling this American group the best ever until they do win in Europe. And I think that's totally fair. And I think it's an awesome, I actually will probably be more excited for this Ryder Cup than, gosh, I'd have to go back and really think about the excitement level for that very reason. DJ Sully, what you said. I mean, this group, we're going to find out exactly what they're about, and that will be great television and something to look forward to for sure.
I think they're absolutely fools if they show up as unprepared for Marco Simone as they did for the Golf National. Like, they were shocked by that golf course. It seemed like they were completely unprepared to play the style that was required on that golf course. I don't think that's going to happen again. I know no one went over to play the Italian Open last week, which I would not have advised anyways. I would imagine that when they go over to play the UK British Open presented by His Majesty the King, first time using that, I would imagine they will be making a stop. A lot of them making a stop over there to see the golf course, to learn it. And I know it's going to change between now and then anyways. But one thing I was thinking about, an analogy, and I know we're pushing up on 2 hours here and ready to go here shortly. My ice machine is broken here at my house. And so I've had to make my own ice, and I've been trying to cool my drinks in my Yeti this week. And when I would just put one ice cube in it, it would melt. But when I put 2 to 3 in it, it formed like a really.
You need to save this for a locker room speech.
No. Listen, the strength of the 3 together out, like it lasted more than 3x, 3 times as long, and that kind of dawned on me when it comes to team events. And like, when you are asking your top players to carry enormous burdens, it is inevitably going to drag them down. I mean, we saw this from so many of the international teams, like just the stress you're put under when you don't have somebody that's, pulling their weight, even in 4-ball, not even so much in foursomes, but 4-ball just weakens your top guys so much. And the internationals got lambasted on that front this week. And Whistling Straits, that happened strongly. The Rorys were just totally weakened by Poulters that couldn't really do much of anything. And that's where it's like the Europeans can stack up a pretty decent top 6 and 7 guys. but those bottom 5 are a big question mark as of right now. And I think that has a chance of, like, you can kind of pace it together and get by in the early parts, but over time that just is going to bleed and bleed and bleed. And that's where I think it's going to have to be. U.S. is going to have to be healthy. The Zalatoris injury alone, I think, cost them some points this week because of who they had to put on the team at the bottom of the roster. But if they show up with 11 of the 12, I don't know who that 12th guy is going to be, but the 11 that I think we can kind of pick out, I think they're going to be really tough to beat.
Cosign. Agree. I also love that's like a Galileo, Sir Isaac Newton moment you're having there with some of the natural wonders around you in your kitchen. I love that.
It would make a shitload of sense if I was like on edibles for that.
No, I get it. It's great.
I'd like to apologize for whatever the hell that was.
No. I'm in. That's like one of the great. That's the way that all the bigs do it, man. Apple falls on your head, all of a sudden. It's
gonna be a big win for Data next year.
Hell yeah.
Anything else before we wrap up a very fun week? Cody, anything we missed?
No, I think we're pretty good. Anything you're missing out on, Big?
I just shifting a gear over to the LPGA. It was an awesome finish. Ataya Titicum won for the second time. This is her rookie season. She is now 19 years old. I think all signs point to her being a mega star from Thailand. She won in a playoff over Danielle Kang, and Danielle eagled the 18th, was a par 5. She chipped in from off the green to get into the playoff. But just an awesome effort, and hopefully caps the comeback for Danielle. She had a big scare earlier this year with a diagnosis of tumors on her spine, and we don't really know all what that was and maybe any like long-term dangers as well. But she was super emotional, even in defeat, just how happy she was to be back and playing. And so it was a very touching scene and a great finish this week in Arkansas. So I wanted to shout out both of those ladies.
Amen to that.
Hell yeah.
For the commenters who are saying is it a Samsung fridge? Yes, it is. My wife is now in the comments confirming that it is.
There you go. Reverse ad. Fuck Samsung.
And a question about Guido Migliosi's shot into 18 at the Golf National today to win the French Open was absolutely outrageous. Lifted out on the high side, if you will, overread it a little bit. But what a hell of a win for Guido Migliosi, 298th, I think, in the world, data golf wise. I think before this week. I mean, holy shit, what a win for him.
Yeah, we need from an American Ryder Cup standpoint, we need that to be kind of the Webb Simpson won the Wyndham a year ago, so he has to be on this team type of performance.
Jamie Weir, I'm calling you out here. I mean, there was a plea to get Guido Migliosi on the which I get the Italian connection here. I do see what we're calling here, but come on, man, we're going to need to see a lot more. If that's the case, then I'm going to double down on my prediction.
Would love if he has a great year, though. That would be great.
So thank you, everyone, for tuning in all week. Thank you, Cody, for running the 1s and 2s on the live shows. Thank you for the commenters. Thank you to the haters and the people that are not haters. Love my haters, as Finau would say. And thank you to all the Yeti and all of our sponsors this week, and the Pro for popping on tonight, man. That was
amazing.
Cool. So,
live show's done for the year.
Live shows for the year. We will be back. I imagine well, maybe more frequently next year. Who could say? We'll see. We'll see.
We got Samsung coming in to sponsor the show.
So, thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time. Cheers.